What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today I'm starting the first edition of rebuilding the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, in every single one of these videos, I'm going to be taking the team, going on Cap Friendly, doing a bit of research, and trying to figure out how we can make this team better or at least competitive and fix some of the areas that the Leafs need to go into the playoffs next year and actually do something, win a round. I'm not a GM. I'm in my formal make-believe armchair GM clothing, you know, a little bit of a button up. I hit golf balls. I didn't do it just for the video, but maybe I will. But I'm trying to be a GM in this video, and it's fantasy booking, it's fantasy land, so don't take this too seriously. But I am putting a little bit of thought into this every single video, so let me know if you guys like this by liking this video and subscribing. Thank you guys so much for all the support lately. But basically, I'm just going to be trying to build the best team possible and explain to you guys the moves. Some of the money might be a little off from what you guys are thinking, but let's keep this a constructive criticism type of chat, type of comments. We're going to have fun with this, so let's waste no time. So basically, the ground rules of this is that obviously it's going to be exactly like it would be in real life. It has to be if I'm trying to rebuild this team as if I was the GM. The cap is going to be $81.5 million again. It's not going anywhere. Of course, with what's been going on in the world, the NHL is not making enough money. How that's just ridiculous. But they're not making enough money to be able to raise the salary cap. Now, it would have went up a ton because of the new TV deal, the ESPN stuff, and because of the Seattle Kraken. Now, that's the next thing that we need to be aware of. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to lose a better player than they did last time when Vegas selected Brendan Leipzig. We won't talk about that guy. But anyways, the Leafs are going to lose somebody significant. Now, some options that are going to be out there is probably going to be possibly Justin Hall, maybe Travis Dermott, Alex Kerfoot. It's very possible. And we're going to get into all of that. So let's waste no more time. The first thing you're going to see is the one trade I made. I only made one trade because there's some other stuff that will be included into this. And there's one selection that's the Seattle Kraken make from the Leafs roster. Now, as you'll see, I put it in as a trade with Seattle because I wasn't sure what option I could do to get Kerfoot off of the team to remove his salary. But forget that we're getting a pick. We're not going to be getting a pick. It's just going to be Kerfoot going to Seattle. Now, the trade I made with Detroit, I am getting the RFA rights to Tyler Bertuzzi, giving the Detroit Red Wings RFA rights to Travis Dermott, also giving them Pierre Engvall and a second-round pick. Now, you might be thinking, that seems a little bit pricey, but it isn't. Okay, I do believe you could take Pierre Engvall out of that equation and trade him in another deal, but if you're going to try to entice Detroit to, you know, get rid of a good young player that has potential to be very good on Toronto. I mean, Bertuzzi's had a couple 20-goal seasons, and we'll get into that. But if you're going to try to get him, remove him from that roster, which they were already considering doing that. If he wasn't injured, they were going to consider moving on from him. But he had like a really bad back injury, I believe. So hopefully that's all good to go. But this is possible. I do believe that this is something that could happen. I do believe paying a second-round pick on top of Dermott is necessary. But the Pierre Engvall, you can have him in that trade, or you could have him in another one. Again, that's completely up to you. But as you can see, the Leafs are depleted in terms of picks. I'm not sure if Kyle Dubas will like trade down to get a few extra picks in this draft. Because they definitely need to, you know, fill the cupboards again with some draft picks because, I mean, they've made some moves. The Foligno deal got rid of a first. They need to fill it up again. But these are the two moves I would definitely be making to start this off. Now, like I said here, the cap hit, the salary cap in itself, so you guys can see I spent pretty damn close, almost right there, $400,000 worth of bonuses, and I was left off with $170K worth of cap space. Let's go to line one. And as you can see there, Zach Hyman, Austin Matthews, William Nylander. Now, the Zach Hyman contract, I have it at $4.7 million. There's some days where I believe that contract could be $4.7 million, or it could be $5.5 million. It could be $5 million. It could be $4.5. I've tried my best to try to compare it to the Tyler Toffoli contract that he signed with Montreal, which would come a little under this, of course. But I do believe Zach Hyman could get anywhere between 4.5 to 4.7 if he were to stay in Toronto. And I believe I signed him for 4 or 5 years. For some reason, it's not popping up there. But I will the next time I do this, because again, it's going to be a different roster every single time I make these videos. And there'll probably be a lot more trades. This one, I wanted to keep it a little bit simple. But I do believe Hyman could come in at that number if he wants to stay in Toronto. Now, again, I'm not his agent. I'm not Hyman. I'm not a GM. This is just a fun video. But I do believe that that's a realistic number. And if he gets more than that, it's because he tried free agency and some team was willing to overpay for him. Now, some people will think, damn, why would you talk about Zach Hyman like that? I love Zach Hyman. I want him to be a Leaf forever. But there's a couple factors that you have to key in here if you're going to be unbiased, okay? Zach Hyman is 29 years old. When the Leafs overpaid for guys like, Nylander, they overpaid by probably a couple $100,000. They overpaid Marner by over $1 million. And give or take whatever you think about Austin Matthews, maybe he's at where he should be, but maybe just for the sake of it, to say a couple $100,000 that you probably shouldn't have paid him. Zach Hyman is a lot older than those guys and when they signed those contracts. Now, Hyman's earned it. He's been a very good player for this Leafs team. He brings in a lot of things that we don't have. The 7 games played in the playoffs with 1 point stands out a little bit for the Leafs to go, yeah, your line wasn't doing so great. You, Marner, and Matthews didn't look so hot, but Hyman looked like he was giving a lot more in those games in terms of, actually, playing hard. I mean, Marner and Matthews, I think they did play quite hard, but Hyman just seems to outwork everybody, let's be honest. So the 2021 season ended off with him having 33 points in 43 games played, so not too shabby. The year before that, he had a 21-goal season. If he played a full 81, he was touching 30 goals. The guy was on fire, 37 points in 51 games played. Prior to that, another 21-goal season, 41 points in 71 games played. So Hyman is consistently going to give you like 40 points if he's healthy, which is very good. And the capability of probably to get to maybe 45 if he's extremely healthy for the whole season, knock on wood. Regardless of where he plays next year, I hope he's healthy the whole year. But you can't just love him to the point where you're willing to just overpay for him to do what he does now. There's going to be guys that are in the free agent market that might not play the exact same as Zach Hyman, but there's guys that can play very similar that do other things that he doesn't. Maybe they score more goals. Maybe they just are better playmakers. Maybe they're better defensively and still have that same grit that can pop in 10 to 12 goals a year. The Leafs are going to have to try to find guys like that if they remove Zach Hyman from this lineup. But in this case, in this fantasy land here, I've got Zach Hyman signing a contract with the Leafs for $4.7 million, still playing with Matthews and Nylander. The second line, you're going to see a new name with Tavares and Marner, and that is Tyler Bertuzzi. Now, funny enough, I actually went to school with Tyler Bertuzzi. Him and I never really talked a lot. He was in one of my classes, but he went to the same high school as me. That was Lourdes High School. And I just think it's cool. He played for the Guelph Storm, and I watched a lot of him. The guy plays with a lot of intensity. He can scrap, he can score, he does a little bit of everything, and he's shown in the NHL that he can do those things. Now, he did just come off of an injury, and Detroit is in like a rebuild right now, but they're okay to like not get rid of spare pieces, but I think that they're willing to listen on certain guys. And I'm wondering if they are willing to listen on Bertuzzi if the offer is right. Now, if the Leafs want to get a similar type of player like Hyman to play on another line, so you keep Hyman and then you get a Bertuzzi in there who addresses toughness, addresses scoring, and addresses the grittiness and, in-your-face style of hockey, Bertuzzi is a perfect fit. Now, he is 26. Detroit, like I said, was willing to listen on trade offers for him before he was injured. From what I seen, from what I read, That's what I gauged from that. So he was on a couple trade lists in terms of like trade bait boards and stuff like that. I'm not sure how accurate it was, but there was talk from like actual sources that he was available in the sense of they were listening. And Detroit obviously wants to bring in as much as they can. They're trying to rebuild. They're going to be a fun team. Bertuzzi is 26. I feel like it would benefit Detroit to keep him. But again, if he was a guy that was looking for a little bit more than what Detroit was willing to pay him, in this case, I've signed him for $4 million. And I believe I gave him 4 years as well, 4 or 5 years on that one. That would be a pretty interesting contract. Don't know if it would be a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. His last contract was a bit under 3. I believe it was like 3.5 or 3.25, but it definitely wasn't at the $4 million mark. But he would probably be looking for a raise, and maybe the Leafs have to pay a little bit more of a premium. Because, guys, if you haven't seen it already, Brian Burke has explained it before. The Toronto Maple Leafs have to overpay for guys because of tax reasons and stuff like that. It's kind of unfair, but it's just life. So, anyways, this year he only played in 9 games. Again, he had a bunch of injuries this year, but I'm sure he'll be very healthy going into next season because they shut him down for a reason. 7 points in 9 games played. He was very productive with 5 goals. And as you can see in his young career already, he's put up potential 50-point seasons back to back. I do believe that playing with guys like Tavares and Nylander, or Tavares and Marner, it depends on who he plays with. You guys can mix up the lines. In this case, I want to see Nylander back with Matthews and Marner back with Tavares. He's going to get 50 points. He's going to score a lot. Again, it's like having a Zach Hyman on both lines, but Bertuzzi is a lot tougher. He'll fight. He'll do a little bit of everything. I just think it would be another dynamic added to this Leafs team. I just like him. I think that he would be a perfect fit for this team. Whether or not he would take $4 million is beyond me. And that, of course, means I'm keeping Mitch Marner in this scenario. The third line, and this is where people will probably not like the direction that this team is going with this bottom 6. Now, the Toronto Maple Leafs can accumulate cap space throughout the season because this team is good enough to make the playoffs, in my eyes, because you'll see the blue line and everything like that. The problem wasn't goaltending. The problem wasn't their blue line. They couldn't score in the playoffs, which is ridiculous. But they have the secondary scoring from the right guys. Kerfoot obviously is gone now. Spezza did his job. Nylander did his job. Galchenyuk did his job in the playoffs. These are guys that I want to stick around, besides Kerfoot, of course, because he got selected by Seattle in this case scenario. But the Leafs can win. They can accumulate cap space. And at the deadline, they can acquire a good player. And I mean, I've explained it in videos before. There's other people who have explained it before. The Leafs do have the money at the deadline to be able to add to a team, especially if they're maybe going to move on from another contract. Who knows? But in this case scenario, on the third line, I've got Nick Robertson being basically a guy that's going to be on this team the entire year, not like a call-up mid-season. With Jason Spezza on the third line, that guy just doesn't age. And Alex Galchenyuk, I'm bringing him back at $1.1 million. That might be a little bit of an overpayment. It might be a little bit of an underpayment. But the thing is Galchenyuk might just get that one more year to prove to maybe the Leafs or to another team that he's going to get a 2 or 3 year contract with a little bit more money, maybe in the $2.5 million range. If he can come into Toronto, play on that third line, maybe play on the second line, maybe play on the first if they want to shuffle around the lines a little bit, maybe get a little bit of power play 2 time, who knows, and just show that he can score, put up points, and play the way that he was playing for the Leafs on a consistent basis. Because Galchenyuk was very good. When the Leafs brought him in, I was a little bit surprised, but he played quite well for the Maple Leafs, in my opinion. We'll just quickly take a look at his numbers here. He's 27 years old, but with the Leafs in the playoffs, 4 points in 6 games. He obviously didn't play the one game there, but 4 points in 6 games is real good. His playoff numbers aren't too bad, 17 and 38. In this past season, 13 points in 34 games played. But I want you to look at the numbers in Toronto. 12 points in 26 games played. Not bad for a guy that was brought in just to be another depth piece. He played really well for the Marlies. And I just believe that if you're getting that type of production from a guy on the third line. Maybe he ends up with 30 or 40 points. I would be happy, especially if the Leafs can get him at that 1 million or 1.1, maybe 1.2 if you're pushing it, if maybe Hyman takes a little bit less or another guy on this team takes a little bit less. Again, some of these contracts you can divvy out 100 grand to one other person, take away 100 grand from another person. It's completely up to you. This is just my standard feelings on what this is, for what this team could bring. But those numbers look pretty decent to me. I think he would work out on that third line. The next guy on that third line is Nick Robertson. Now, we've seen his shot is absolutely lethal. He's got one of the best shots on this team the second he steps onto this team. 86 points in 46 games played with 55 goals. If the OHL finished their season, he would have had 60 goals, no problem. With the Leafs this past year, he only played in 6 games. He had 1 point. But with the Marlies, he had 16 points in 21 games played as a 19-year-old. He looks really good. He's fast. He just brings a lot to the table. People thought I was nuts for saying he could score 15 to 20 goals. I really do believe Robertson could score 15 to 20 goals. Honestly, I would bet a lot on it. I think that this kid is going to come in and shock a lot of people. He needs to just get more open looks, and that's going to come with experience, and it's going to come with playing more than 6 games for the Maple Leafs. Like, I'm not just going to take 6 games. This kid is 19 and be like, yeah, he didn't score, so like whatever. He scored a goal as an 18-year-old for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs last year, or the play-in against Columbus, and it was a nice little snapshot. So hopefully he can do that on a consistent basis for this Leafs team. But I just think that it would make sense for him to finally crack the roster. So let's move over to Spezza. Giving him $1 million, he could end up getting a little bit less than that. Same thing with Gouch. Maybe you get him at $1 million flat. Maybe you get Spezza at $800K. I just rewarded him with a little bit of a raise. And then obviously Robertson is coming in with his entry-level deal. You guys can see the fourth line. Engvall is gone. You have Adam Brooks, who I believe played pretty decent for the Maple Leafs. I think that that's a good option. Mikheyev's still there on that fourth line. I don't know. I like Mikheyev, but the guy needs to work on his shot. He's got a muffin. He's not a very good finisher. And then I have Wayne Simmons at $900K. People might be scratching their heads at that. Basically, my thing is Wayne Simmons is good for what he does, but not for the money that teams are going to overpay him for. I don't believe that this guy is $1 million player anymore. If he was healthy this year, all season, maybe he would still be getting that contract. But if I'm the Leafs, I go, listen, you were banged up last year. You didn't play the way you wanted to. You even said it yourself. You didn't really do much in the playoffs. Let's be honest, he didn't do too much. Just come back, run it back with us this year. We'll let you do what you got to do. We'll give you some time on the power play again if you play well enough. And we'll see if you can get that little bit of a raise for somebody else or for us if the money comes out. You know what I mean? So I do believe that if it's not Simmons, you're just getting a guy that does the same thing for the same amount, if not less, or finding a guy that just makes around that much money for your fourth line. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. In terms of the blue line, I've kept it pretty well the same. Bogosian coming back at 1.2. Again, you could bring him in at $1 million. If not, you slide Timothy Liljegren into that spot. I do believe, and again, a lot of people are going to think I'm nuts. I think Liljegren can play on that second pairing with Muzzin. I know it's been like a little bit of a meme from a couple Leaf Twitter guys, but like I do agree with them that Liljegren is a little bit underrated by a lot of people. And I do believe he can play in that 6 there. I do believe he could be in there. But bringing back Bogosian is a huge move for us if we can do that. I've got him at 1.2. Again, you could have him at 1.1 or $1 million flat, or maybe a little less. But I do believe he will get over $1 million if he was to hit the open market. So to be fair, 1.2 to Bogosian with Liljegren as the scratch. And you're going to see in goal James Reimer and Jack Campbell. Now, the reason I have Reimer at 2.5 is, first of all, it's a big decrease from what he was getting paid before. And I know Reimer played here before, and some people are going to go, you're nuts. Like, what are you thinking? Reimer did pretty well for Carolina. He put up good numbers, and when he was in Toronto, he put up great numbers. I'm not saying he's going to do it again, but he was able to control the media. The guy was very, soft spoken, really well liked. Him and Campbell would become the best liked tandem in the entire league because they're so nice. But that's not the point. I think Reimer would just be a really solid backup. He's able to play a bunch of games if Campbell can't play some games. It's really good insurance because in the minors, you still have goaltenders that can play there. We still have Michael Hutchinson for another year as the third string. Maybe you see a game from Ian Scott. I don't know. But I do believe that it makes a lot of sense to bring in a guy like Reimer. Now, I was looking at goaltender signings on Cap Friendly here, and shout out to Cap Friendly because I've been using this the whole time, and I've been using them for a long time in terms of making videos like this. But Anton Forsberg, I'm not really sure. That's not really comparable. But as you guys can see, the cap hits on the very right here. This is what some goalies are signing for these days. Mackenzie Blackwood is much younger with a lot more upside, and he's getting paid $2.8 million. You've got Allmark, who had a fantastic year, 2.6. I believe I'm not. He's definitely going to be in the need for in the need of a new contract, and he'll get paid a lot more than that. Gorgiev 2.4. So like I could see Reimer either that number being way too high and Reimer goes for way less somewhere else, or maybe Toronto. Who knows? But the Leafs need to find a way to get a goaltender in the $2 to $2.5 million range that can play games at the same rate as Campbell does. And it doesn't mean he has to be as good as Campbell, but you need somebody that you can rely on in the crease. So this is my first crack at this in terms of video wise. I do this all the time for fun, but this is what I would go with if I was just going off of my first thoughts. There could be a lot of different changes here. I do believe this is a playoff team, and they can add at the deadline for sure. There's definitely room there. This number here, you could accumulate more cap space come the deadline because there's a lot of shenanigans that you can do at the deadline. We've seen it with a lot of teams, including the Leafs. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. This is a pretty long video. If you did stay the entire time, I really appreciate you. Like this video and subscribe. Again, I would greatly appreciate that. But this is just what I would go with. Like I said, first crack at it. I think it would be a lot of fun to continue doing this, and I'm going to. There could be massive trades. I'm not going to make the same roster every single time. So again, thank you so much. My dog is going crazy outside. I need to see what she's doing. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next edition of Rebuilding the Maple Leafs. Peace.